When I was 15 years old, my father, he died in front of me, actually. It was quite a shocking thing. And my life completely changed from that moment on. We're trying to create, useful content, educate people while helping people in the videos. There's this belief that if you do a good deed, you shouldn't film it. Well, I'm like, why wouldn't you feel a good deed? Especially filming it and uploading it can help the person in the video.
Simon Squibb, both an angel investor, an entrepreneur, and the founder of Help Bank. Each of us will have, for our own business, a couple of gauges that will help us understand whether things are going right or wrong and whether we need a course correction. What were those things for you?
I always think about...
Welcome to FounderMetrics by Vested, the podcast where we dive into the world of hotshot business leaders and the specific metrics, not just the usual KPIs, that drive their game-changing companies forward. I'm your host, Ifti Nasser, CEO and founder of Vested, and I'm excited to take you on this journey with me into the world of successful founders. Welcome to FounderMetrics. I'm Ifti, and today we've got the amazing Simon Squibb. Everybody will know him as both an angel investor, an entrepreneur, and the founder of Help Bank. I mean, he's on YouTube, on Instagram. He's just everywhere, and absolutely amazed to have you on the podcast today, Simon. Do you want to just give us a bit of a background for yourself from your perspective, so everybody knows who you are?
Yeah, thanks for having me. First of all, I'm an entrepreneur. I personally started 19 companies. And I presently today run a platform called helpbank.com. The idea is you can go on that platform and get help for free, and we'll pay people to go and help people for free. And I have spent the last 4 years going on social media, helping people for free, just giving people the knowledge that I think will make their lives better for free, to give them what I think school hasn't given people, which is the knowledge to have more option when you leave school, not just get a job, but perhaps if you want, start a business of your own. And if you don't want to start a business of your own, at least have the ability to negotiate with your boss to get equity, to have a part of what you're working on, and make sure people have that financial literacy that school does not give you. That's what I've been doing for the last 4 years on social media.
That's brilliant. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, the alignment of what we're trying to achieve, both in terms of sharing knowledge, helping great ideas come to life, I think we're on the same boat, as it were. But let's get a little bit of the background of where you started from. From what I understand, you were homeless at 15 and started your first business around that time as well. Do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, I'm one of 4 children. So I've got 3 brothers. And when I was 15 years old, my father suddenly died of a heart attack. I was 54 years old. And he died in front of me, actually. It was quite a shocking thing. And I thought he was joking. I didn't think he was having a heart attack. And then it got more and more serious. I often was then the fact that school never taught me what a heart attack looks like or helped me figure out, how to save his life.
Yeah.
Anyway, 9 minutes after the heart attack started, he died. And my life completely changed from that moment on. Of course, you can imagine an emotional home at that point with my 3 brothers and my mum. And we basically all started having quite a difficult time between us. And my mum and I got into a big argument not long after my father died. And my mum said, get out of my house. And I took her literally, and I left, and I never went back. And so I was homeless for a little while. I was only homeless for about 8 weeks. So I don't think, I always think it's, I was not institutionally homeless. The different types of homeless. And I ended up in a squat. So I was past homelessness as, not having a roof over your head. Of course, there's many different versions of homelessness. But I had a roof over my head 8 weeks later. Long story short, I tried so hard to get a job, but I didn't have an address, and I didn't have a national insurance card, which unfortunately you need to get a job because I wasn't 16 yet. So everywhere I went, I couldn't get a job. And of course, 4 or 5 weeks into trying to get a job, I looked like shit. So no one was going to give me a job. And the long story short is I was described this moment as the entrepreneur muscle woke up in my brain because I had no choice but to find a way to survive. And I walked past a big house and had a messy garden. And it's the first time my brain came up with a solution instantly. I basically said to me, that house is big, they've got money. That garden is messy, maybe they'll pay me to take care of it. So I went and knocked on the door of the house. I pretended I had a gardening company. I said, "Hi, my name's Simon Squibb. I've got a gardening company. I wonder if you'd let me take care of your garden." And to my shock, they said yes. They asked me how much. I picked a number at the time. I said £200 a month. And they said, "Sure, let's go." And that's it. The gardening company was born. I used their equipment initially to do the work. And I built a gardening company from scratch. And so that's how I got into entrepreneurship. And that's my backstory.
That is brilliant. Do you mind me asking as to how things are with your mum and siblings? Or is that not something that you like to talk about?
No, I'm pretty open about it. I mean, other than the fact that they might listen to this, I don't talk to my mum today. I have tried many times to reconcile, but at the end of the day, a lot of water under the bridge. I have fundamental differences with my mum now. Nothing really to do with what happened to me when I was younger. I almost understand now what it was like for her at that time. But at 15 years old, you're quite selfish, so I have some empathy. But we're just very different people, and I think this is a lesson that I've come to terms with, that just because you're born into a family and your parents are your parents, it doesn't mean you have to like them. It doesn't mean you have to hang out. And I personally, for me, I find my mother very toxic, and she's not a person I would want to be friends with in the normal world if she wasn't my mother. So I've just decided, at this point in my life, to not try and be friends with someone who I don't like.
Okay, well, thanks for sharing that, because I think the backstory is so important as to who we are and how we actually move forward. So, the gardening company, then long jump onto Hong Kong. Tell us about Hong Kong and how you actually got there.
Yeah, well, Hong Kong, you want the official story or the real story?
I want the real story, Sam. This is all about us sharing our journeys with other founders so they can learn from them rather than the glitz and the sanitized versions that we create as part of our personas or pseudo personas.
Yeah, I think I a little bit joke around that, but I think sometimes when you're describing your full motivation, sometimes the motivations can be quite complex. But my simple story is that at 23 years old, I had a couple of things happen at once. One, for the first time in my life, I actually made a little bit of money.
Yeah.
And I had some money in the bank, as it were, and I got tax advice, and the accountant said, if you leave England for a little while, you won't pay so much capital gains tax on this money you just made. And so for the first time in my life, I was like, okay, maybe I should travel then and not be in the UK. And at the same time, I had a friend who was living in Hong Kong, who said, you can stay with me. And then another coincidence, I love fate. I sometimes make a lot of my decisions. I had an offer for some consultancy work. So I basically took it that I should just go and experience the world, and went to Hong Kong, having never been there, never lived there. I just literally sold everything I had in England and just flew over there. And I moved to Hong Kong. At first, I didn't like it.
Yeah.
A very different culture. Everything is the opposite. But I found it very, very jarring at first. And I didn't like it. And 6 months into living in Hong Kong, I moved to Thailand because I thought I wanted to travel a bit and I didn't like Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And then after about 2 years of traveling, I realized how amazing Hong Kong was. Once I understood the whole world and not just England and Hong Kong. I went back to Hong Kong and then went back to conquer it. I went back to be a player in that market, which is not easy. I basically went back to Hong Kong. And I started a company called Fluid, became the largest creative agency in Asia. And I eventually sold that to PricewaterhouseCoopers, but it took me 15 years and completely understand it. And I loved it.
An amazing story. I won't ask about the how you got all that money before you had that amazing tax advice that was serendipitous to the next stage in your journey. But tell me a little bit more about this fairy godmother, business fairy godmother persona that you've now developed and are living.
A bit more like Mr. Feast for business. And so we're trying to create useful content to educate people while helping people in the videos and in the content. So, there's this belief that if you do a good deed, you shouldn't film it. Well, I'm like, well, maybe that was created in the 1700s when film. Why wouldn't you film a good deed? Especially filming it and uploading it can help the person in the video.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a long story how this all happened, but 4 years ago, I just purely wanted to give back and just help people. So I would just go live on social media. People would ask me questions and I would answer those questions. And that was that. And then one day I was doing that on TikTok, and TikTok changed their algorithm. So that basically, well, I say algorithm, they changed their system, and you could start to get gifts in a live. So
right.
I went on live, I gave someone some advice. And then on the live, during the live, people were giving me gifts. And so, and when I closed the live, I realized I'd made £150. And I've been promising not to charge people for help. That person, I didn't charge them, but I just earned some money from it. So I thought to myself, something didn't feel right about that. So I basically went for lunch that day after that session in the morning. I went into Tesco's, and I just walked past someone who was filling up the Tesco's. And I just said, someone I'd normally just walk past, I guess, like we all do. And I just said to them, hey, how you doing? What's your dream? And then they told me this incredible story about their dream. And I gave them money. I just got on the live, but I didn't film it.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I thought to myself, I should have filmed that because I could help them get the word out about their idea. And it kind of percolated with me. And I guess a model was born. I didn't go out to copy Mr. Beast.
Yeah.
I describe it that way now to make people understand.
Yeah, what you're doing.
But you know, they came from a place of just like, wow, these stories that people have are amazing. And a lot of people have limiting belief systems,
yeah,
knowledge gaps that school didn't give them or their parents don't give them because they don't know. So they had these, you know, building blocks for building a business, knowledge which is totally teachable. So there's a lot of people who have a dream, don't ever make it happen. Being told the 20 steps to make it happen. And so that's how I guess I started my journey of like hearing people's dreams and then trying to help them make it happen. And it's all been kind of an accident, really. It wasn't some genius plan.
It's quite amazing. I mean, I've seen a few of your videos, well, quite a few of them now, but there's the one where you go into Gymshark, and then the person that you actually spoke to initially wasn't the person that ultimately got the benefit of your support, but Molly, who then called you, who actually was, I think, one of the people who was party to having you moved out of the store to start off with.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I think a lot of people aren't ready to go. Other people are working on it and building up their confidence or knowledge or saving, whatever it is. So I'm very conscious. If someone tells me that they're totally happy, I don't bother them. I try to help make it happen, and sometimes I be for it.
So just going on to the stuff that we're looking at FounderMetrics, what we're trying to do is help other entrepreneurs, other founders, learn from fellow founders around the things that they helped gauge the success or where things were going right or wrong in the business. Now, obviously, we all know about the straightforward metrics in a business, but each of us will have for our own business a couple of gauges that will help us understand whether things are going right or wrong and whether we need a course correction. What were those things for you?
I always think about two elements of this. One is, am I enjoying it?
Yeah.
And it's a selfish pursuit. You've got to enjoy it. I think fun is not used enough in business as a word.
Yeah.
People I work with, the things I do, I want it to be fun. And I have had points in my career where it's no longer fun. And whenever I felt that, I've always made change. And this leads to my second point, which is I think one of the biggest mistakes I've made in business in the past is thinking I'm irreplaceable.
Yeah.
Trapping myself in my own business. And it's quite freeing to make yourself not the most important person in the business. And then you're working in the business because you enjoy it, as opposed to you have to do it. So it's really hard when you're building a business from zero. I'm not an advocate for buying businesses. I know there's a lot of people that believe you should buy a business. Totally understand it. I like building businesses from zero. I like building the brand, the culture, the structure from the beginning. I'm not good at turning around a business.
Yeah.
I have turned around my own businesses, but I like working on brand new concepts. So I like it from zero to hero. I like it. But I think it is quite dangerous when you're in the early days. You are a you are a generalist when you tend to start a business.
Yeah.
The art of building a good long-term business is going from a generalist to a specialist. And becoming a specialist when you are naturally a generalist is quite tough. So you've got to learn to bring in the very best specialists at a certain point in the business. They can be expensive.
Yeah.
They can be difficult to find. But I find that is the mistake I've made in my early businesses was, I was the one in charge of sales. I was the one in charge of marketing. And I didn't let any of that go. And I learned my lesson because I ended up trapped in those businesses. So I learned over time.
That's so powerful. I think you're right. We start off with the idea. It's our idea, and therefore it's something that only we can realise. But that point that you've just made is so powerful that none of us can do anything on our own. It takes the team for it to come to pass. And I guess that's why, certainly from a vested perspective, our whole objective is to make sure that everybody who helps the business succeed has a stake in it, whatever their role, whether they're investors, advisors, employees. Everybody should have skin in the game and sharing that journey. Thank you for joining us on this episode of FounderMetrics. Remember, the biggest of ambitions are within reach when you leverage the right metrics and strategies. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and never miss out on any future ones. And don't forget to visit us on www.vested.com for additional resources, articles, and exclusive content. Join our growing community of entrepreneurs and founders by following us on LinkedIn, Twitter, X, and Instagram. We'd love to hear your thoughts and insights. Together, let's continue to unlock and share the metrics of success and create a brighter future.